Welcome to This Just In, the show bringing you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. And now, for the fastest voice in healthcare, here's your host, Justin Barnes.
Thank you for tuning in and welcome to This Just In. I'm your host, Justin Barnes. In these segments, I'll bring you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. As always, we're broadcasting from the This Just In studios on the Business Radio X network, as well as the Healthcare Now radio network. For this episode, my 216th episode, we are extremely privileged to have my good friend and frequent HIMSS annual conference radio show guest, the esteemed Tom Leary. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
You got it. So first, where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling from Falls Church, Virginia, and that's my house in my basement. So it was started as HIMSS Public Policy when we didn't have an office many years ago. So yeah. It's pretty appropriate that here we are again.
How far outside DC are you from the capital?
We're about 9 miles from the Lincoln Memorial straight down Route 50. So okay. Another 3 miles to the capital then.
Cool. And so first of all, because we have not really caught up in a while, so I certainly missed that. But how are you? How's everything going?
I'm doing great. Our family is healthy, and
Awesome.
we haven't seen relatives in over a year. But my wife is still an educator at the local high school. My son's a sophomore, and my other son is a freshman in college. So and we got a new puppy. So all things considered, we're in good shape.
Very cool. What's the puppy's name?
His name is Tucker, and his last name is, well, not last name, but his middle name is Mattingly. So I always wanted to name something after Don Mattingly.
Sure.
Just, my hero. So but we call him Tuck.
Yankees second baseman? Is that correct? Or
first baseman.
First baseman.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. I was a Red Sox fan, so I knew Don Mattingly because he'd kick our butts.
I have a story about the Red Sox Yankees that maybe we can talk about later.
Oh, that'd be fun. Awesome. Yeah. So on that note and accord, where'd you grow up? In college, all that good stuff?
Sure. Grew up in a small town called Wanacue, New Jersey, about 10 minutes south of New York State and about 40 minutes outside of New York City. So hence the Yankee fan.
Yeah.
But was born in Buffalo, New York, and all of my relatives, most of my relatives are on my mom's side, or at least still there, and my dad's side spread throughout the country. But we were transferred for what would have been 2 years, and then we're going to be moving down to Virginia. When I was 2, we moved, and then my dad's company went belly up because they were they had a bit of a scandal, not involving my dad, of course, but then you can't move 7 kids back to Buffalo, New York.
Right.
So we became Jersons, I guess.
Yeah.
And then went to Rutgers University, 1992, graduate of Rutgers College, and then moved to DC 10 days later to take up an internship the first year. And at the time that they weren't giving paid internships because of another scandal.
I remember.
Yeah. And then got my graduate degree at GW at night while working at the Pentagon. I happened to be the guy that answered the phone when then newly elected President Bill Clinton was looking for a new Secretary of Defense, and they Warren Christopher, who became Secretary of State, called looking to speak to Congressman Les Aspin about becoming SecDef. And when he took the job, he took all of us with him, even the guy who had just been working there for 3 months. So and then spent 7 years in the Pentagon and 2 years in SAIC, and been with HIMSS ever since.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. I knew
nice roller coaster.
Yeah, but I knew you were a great guy. I knew we'd be friends. I mean, from the first time we met, because you're, being from Buffalo, you're a solid, they're just amazing people out of Buffalo and that whole northern New York corridor, just great people, salt of the earth. And then Jersey, I grew up in Massachusetts, so you kind of grew up on the west side of me, and then the southern side. So we always summered in Cape May, not every summer, but many summers. So I went right through your.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. So I knew there's something or a lot that I liked about you, because you and we've been friends for, I mean, now it's going on probably close to 18
years.
Yeah, it's been a long time. So we've run, as some of my other friends say, we've run a lot of fence line together through the years, a lot of committee work together, and just a lot of learning and collaboration. So I'm grateful for all that you do, and I'm extremely excited about this show because you're on the front tip of the spear in what we're doing in healthcare and policy and strategy and all that good stuff. So
the one thing that I always learned from all of our members was if Justin had a good idea, run with it. So I'm thankful for the for the friendship and the really the foresight that you had. The rest of us could run to where you were seeing.
Thank you. So let's dive in. I'm excited. I'm really excited for this show and this episode. So during this time, what do you see as starting kind of high level? What do you see as some of the health priorities from a public policy perspective over the next 6 to 18 months or so?
Sure. It's obviously first and foremost is responding to the COVID pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
We whether it's health IT or any other aspect of healthcare, truly getting this under control is the number one priority. And then from there, it's issues that are supportive of that. Of taking care of the equity issues around, for whether it's taking care of the person on an equitable level, making sure that the PPE, the personal protective equipment, is available to all individuals, and it's not just for the haves, but it's for everybody. And then, the newest issue, of course, related to it is vaccine distribution equity. We've been part of some activities over the last few years that have been trying to standardize the way that information flows for who's been vaccinated, who needs to be vaccinated, and where the stockpiles are and where they need to be. And there's nothing greater than this pandemic to really spotlight or shine a spotlight on the fact that that we're not doing all that we could do, but we're with respect to equity.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final piece I would say from the pandemic is let's make sure that, and I'm sure we'll talk about this throughout the conversation, but there's been a lot of innovation that's occurred from a policy perspective and from a technology perspective as a result of the pandemic, that we can't go backwards because any waivers would run out. We have to be able to solve some of these policy issues so that we don't go backwards to then get back to where we are before we move forward. So I would say that's the big pieces of the pandemic issue. But then as we move further into 2021 and 2022, what does it mean here in the United States in particular? How do we truly address value-based care? If at the end of the Obama administration, they were hoping for, by 2018, 2019, having 85% of Medicare be delivered on a not fee-for-service, but on a alternate payment model approach. We aren't there yet, but the Trump administration kept the value-based care issue moving forward. But how does that all fit into any adjustments to the Affordable Care Act? I think that's the second big issue: changes to the Affordable Care Act, and then really building on value-based care. And then thirdly, it's all about whether it's cybersecurity, security, or privacy. If some people say that one is a subset of the other two, and you can argue all of that around, but making sure that personal information, PHI, is protected, and that then we have a common goal of keeping healthcare, making sure that healthcare is no longer the number one target. Not that you want any sector to be the number one target of cyber bad actors,
Mm-hmm.
but healthcare has been the number one target for too long. We need to collectively, across the healthcare community, across the globe, address the cyber challenges.
Yeah, I completely agree. Phenomenal focus from certainly you. These are some of the priorities also coming obviously from HIMSS, the government relations teams, and throughout the organization.
Yeah, we had you know, what's changed in the last 18 months or so from a HIMSS government relations perspective is, Hal Wolf came in and as CEO and basically said, we've got a GR team that's focusing on one part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make sure that the GR team is really supporting the entire enterprise. So what we've done is we've really looked at the topics that are borderless. And when you talk to folks, whether they're in the United States or Canada or China or Australia or any of the African countries or South America, anywhere on the globe, really the big issues that they talk about are interoperability, connected health, cyber and privacy, and then the one that we are see emerging more is value-based care, value over volume.
Yep.
Because even in the single payer systems, they don't have a blank check to be able to write for healthcare. They need to be able to see that value of what they're doing and how health IT can support it.
Yeah, and I think the piece that I'm really deeply involved in and just have supported for the last 10, 12 years is the whole telehealth component. And so I do want to touch on that because I also brought that up with my last guest, John Halamka. And, we're seeing in some of my companies, still care is 20 to 25%, done via the care delivery is done via telehealth. So, I mean, that's still, it was, 80% or even 100% for some people during the pandemic. But, now it's kind of stabilizing out at 20 to 25% in many people's care strategy and with their patients. And that's important that we keep that momentum. We don't want to go backwards. And I know you guys are fighting hard in articulating the policy and some of the change that need to happen over for the next 10 years or so. We don't want to go backwards at all, or certainly too far. So I know you guys support that, correct?
Right, exactly. The idea of whether it's the reintroduction of the Connect for Health Act that's been adjusted over time. How does telehealth truly be, now that we've demonstrated the need for it? I had one friend friend who interestingly enough, in January of 2020, his telehealth resource within his organization was being told that it wasn't meeting goals, whether it was financial or just community involvement, and they were going to have to unplug it by June of 2020. 3 weeks later, the pandemic starts, and they're the hottest ticket in town for that organization. So it's we're absolutely supportive of the ideas that are, whether it's Connect for Health Act or the new legislation that's Senator Schatz and Senator Scott have introduced. It's all about expanding the types of providers and the geographic locations that can that's not limited to Alaska and Hawaii and in certain underserved areas, but that we truly understand how my son had a telehealth visit the other day with a provider, and it was a nurse practitioner, and so you're going to say that we've had a year and a half of a nurse, whether it's nurses or even pharmacists, all the different provider types that have had access to it, that suddenly they're not eligible anymore because they're not skilled enough. That just doesn't make sense to us.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the other piece is what we're really pushing for is remote patient monitoring.
Yes.
And and truly getting it right there, because as Hal Wolf, our CEO, likes to talk about, the Kaiser organization that he came from, several years ago, they had in place remote patient monitoring where you could put, if X is the low number and Y is the high number, and you want to keep the patient in between those two numbers. Mm-hmm. If from remote patient monitoring, their hemoglobin A1C goes below or whatever, that the computer, that the system alerts the provider. The idea of what we're seeing in what we could see of not leveraging technology to be able to help us manage that, but requiring more individual touch bases with people. It is truly, like you said, going backwards before we go forward again.
You got it. And also on the consumer side, I mean, right now, I just published a report here in partnership with somebody that, 80% of patients don't want to go back to, they want to have access to telehealth and telecare, and telehealth and televisits and so forth. And so they don't want to go backwards to only being forced to see the physician or care provider in the four walls of a practice or health system or hospital. They want access to care remotely. So,
absolutely agree. And just the idea of being able to leverage as many resources as we have available to us, so that whether it's creating more bricks and we can't make enough bricks and mortar to accommodate, particularly if we have provider shortages in whether it's parts of the country or across the country. There's provider types. We've had conversations with folks in West Virginia where there's one OBGYN for 5 counties.
You got it.
I mean, it's like, if it wasn't for telehealth, having all those people drive to that person, particularly in the winter when it's, through the hills of West Virginia, it might not be Colorado hills, but it's still treacherous, can be treacherous. So how do we leverage technology?
You got it. So those for just tuning in, we're speaking with Tom Leary, Senior Vice President of Government Relations at HIMSS. So let's dive into the current administration. So what are some of your initial assessments of President Biden's healthcare plan? And then what are some of the recommendations that you're making to the administration? Because you guys are always very active. So
we're very excited to be working with the Biden administration. And, we're seeing more names, more people populating the positions, every day. At this point, number one is, all of us really, I think we're all excited that Mickey Tripathi is the national coordinator.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Great pick. Yes.
I mean, he knows us. He knows the community. He knows what the struggles of trying to get providers on board. He knows the struggles of standards development, certification, you name it. He's had to address it. Yep. He's been lucky enough, I think, in some ways, to be in a very progressive environment. But I think he was in Massachusetts, but it was a progressive environment because Mickey had vision and convinced multiple governors from different sides of the aisle on where they could go. So I think that's what we're very excited for to have Mickey on board there. Some of the initial activities that we're very excited about is just the issue. They came in with a plan for COVID that is respectful of states' rights, but also recognizing that we need what HIMSS has done in the last few weeks is send a letter and saying, for vaccine distribution, we need an all hands on deck approach. We absolutely agree with the administration's approach on that, but we also need a coordinated national plan. And what we've been hearing from our members is as early as mid-December when the vaccines first started rolling out to different communities was, I need to be able to understand what is expected from Washington or from the State House, or or the lessons learned from other parts of the community. So if we have having that national approach, that coordinated approach, allows for the communities to adjust according to what's happening on the ground, but also having that national vision. We're very thankful for that. I would say the other piece that we're very excited about is really the question that we'll expect Secretary Becerra to address, is the idea of how can health IT advance some of these changes or support the advancement of some of their expected changes to the Affordable Care Act. And we're very excited to be part of that conversation.
Excellent. Were you guys? I don't remember him being part of some of our circles. Did you guys do a lot of outreach to him? I also was never in California, so. But what's his engagement with health IT from his past? Do you know?
Our Northern California chapter has interacted with him when we used to have when folks used to come in for National Health IT Week.
Sure.
And then also some of the early work that we did with the HIT Collaborative for the Underserved.
Yeah.
He has been very vocal, very supportive of the NHIT Collaborative for the Underserved and some of their education sessions. So I think we're getting a secretary who understands the topics and understands the potential for health IT to support more equity in care distribution. I would say that the other piece that, just based on our recent Davies Award, the Department of Corrections for the state of California is a Davies Award winner, and it was under his leadership that they advanced vaccine distribution and addressing some of the issues around hey, when a person's incarcerated, they're in the system, they're getting better care than when they're released back into the community. They go back to being, their diabetes isn't under control,
right.
Cardiac care isn't under control. So they started an important conversation that I think the community, it's part of this social determinants of health, right? It's an community discussion around what do we do for the folks once they're back in the community. And it was really partly under his leadership that California began that conversation, and our Davies Award winner was able to advance that work. So we're excited to be engaged with him and his team on that level.
Excellent. I will say HIMSS is phenomenal for the reason of the state chapters. I've been engaged in the state chapter for a long time, and a decade plus now. Did serve nationally, but also with the state chapter with HIMSS. And I do recommend anybody in the earshot of my voice is to certainly look at your state chapters. It's a great area for collaboration, education, innovation, and just all around learning and taking your career very seriously and taking it to the next level. So I can't say enough about the state programs that you guys help host and help lead. So thank you for that.
I appreciate you saying that. Absolutely. And it's, and it's volunteers. It's everyone's a volunteer. And we at the national level, or at the HIMSS corporate level, if you will,
right.
We look to the chapters, see what they're talking about and what they're doing, and some of the innovation that they're bringing, whether it's the policy discussion or just strictly, what technologies are out there to help answer the policy questions. It's the Georgia chapter, whether it's the Northern and Southern California chapters, the conference that the Southwest, the Southeastern chapters pull together. Of course, it's it's interesting that some of the chapter regional events tend to gather very similar to the college conferences. So we've got a Midwest regional chapter that's happened in the past that's very much Big Ten oriented, and it's the innovation that comes out of those discussions is so very helpful to us.
Yeah, no, oh, go ahead. Yeah, finish.
Now, one of the things that we've been really pushing for the last couple of years that I think is ties into both what the Biden administration is doing and what we're seeing out of the governor's offices is we had health IT roadmaps were developed as part of the Recovery Act, as part of the high-tech provisions way back in 2009. And somewhere around 2016, 2017, Valerie Rogers, who's runs our state and provincial government work, began talking to the chapter advocates about, hey, should we, some of these plans are close to 10 years old, should we start to think about updating? And as a result, places like Colorado and Rhode Island and Georgia and just states around the country have been updating their plans over the last couple of years, which has helped them to respond to the pandemic in a more efficient way, because they updated what resources were available and what the challenges might be, so that they were, when the pandemic hit, they were more ready from a health IT perspective than, and I really give it to the chapters talking to the state houses about updating that really caused those conversations.
Yeah. Nope, that sounds excellent. And it's a phenomenal use of people's time. And we're actually at time, but I do want to say,
are we?
Yeah, we're actually at time, but I do want to tell my audience, if you're not engaged with HIMSS and some of the state chapters and even HIMSS and the policy, the committees that they have, it's just a great way to future-proof what you do, future-proof your company, future-proof your business, because you're going to be on the front tip of the spear. You're going to learn, you're going to collaborate, you're going to make yourself stronger, you're going to make your company stronger, your team stronger. So I'm a big advocate of what HIMSS has brought to me personally and how it's fueled my career through the years, and now it's obviously my chance to give back. But again, I was excited to have this show today, Tom, because I wanted to learn and I wanted to hear. But we need to have you back too, because I just want to deep dive into some policy. Certainly, as we as this administration comes together, let's maybe circle back in 3 to 4 months or so.
Please, yeah. I appreciate it. Oh, absolutely. I can't believe it went by so fast.
Yeah, it's 26 minutes flies.
Whew.
All right, my friend. Well, great to have you on air, and thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Justin. We'll see you soon.
You got it. And I truly appreciate everybody. What's that?
We hope to see you soon.
We will. We're coming to the other side of this bad boy. And thanks to everyone for joining us today. You can please tune in weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific. As always, you can track me on Twitter at HIT Advisor. You need to use the hashtag #ThisJustinRadio so you can respond to your comments from the show. If you miss any of this episode or want to hear more, all the shows are posted on Apple iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Google Play, and TuneIn. And you can check out the new content we posted at justinbarnes.com. Thanks, everyone. Have a safe day and stay safe. Take care.